Today on Bump Love, we continue our discussion on children with special needs and learning disabilities. And today we are privileged to have Miss Patricia Ogule. She's by profession a lawyer, businesswoman, but she's also a co-founder of an NGO, Autism Awareness Uganda. The idea of which was, but she's a mother to one, to a 6-year-old called Harvey. The idea of the NGO was birthed by her experience, both in hardship and joy, of nurturing and raising a child who was diagnosed with autism. You're welcome to the show, Patricia. We're so glad to have you here. We've been talking blindly about special needs. Well, a few experiences here and there, but now we know so we're going to focus mostly maybe on autism and what it is. And so we've been briefed that there's a huge spectrum of special needs and learning disabilities. So we want you to give us coming from your experience with other children and your own, explain to us what is autism. It's something we hear about these days.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really privileged to be here as well. So autism, to my understanding, like the simplified version for me, is basically it's a behavioral disorder. So it's neurological, obviously it's something in the mind and but then it manifests itself socially. So that's how it's diagnosed. That's how you understand that somebody has autism, because of their social interactions, their inability to socially interact with people and be in spaces like that. That's my understanding of autism.
So your son is autistic. You said he's 6 years old. What were the signs that you saw were out of place, and maybe what pushed you to go and have him checked? I don't know if that's how it happened, but I just want to understand how you were feeling at the time when you heard that he had autism, and what things should parents look out for?
Basically, when I had Harvey is my first child, so I had zero experience in, first of all, mothering. So I had no idea. Okay, well, of course, besides getting those emails that you would get every month from like what to expect or something about what milestones he's supposed to hit and stuff. By the time he was about like a year and 6 months, I had really stopped like paying attention to those emails and stuff. So for me, it was like he's fed, he's well, he's doing good, everything is fine. But I needed to stop breastfeeding. And I was doing the bar, I was doing LDC at that time, so it was really stressful. So I had a break in around May when you do like internship. So I wanted to get him off the breast. So what I did was I gave him to my aunt just for a break for like 2 weeks so that I could, get him off breastfeeding. During those 2 weeks, he was literally observed. Like she had a whole list of things she had written down. So I get back after the 2 weeks and I'm like, hey, what? He's okay, what? I'm expecting to just be picking up my son and we go home. And she's like, no, I think you need to sit down. We need to talk about some things. And she was really serious. And I was like, okay, he seems fine. And she's like, first of all, he's not babbling. He doesn't say anything. He's not, he doesn't respond when I call his name. He doesn't want to hang around his little cousins. He's always in the bedroom on his own. He plays on his own. He just does not want to be involved in anything. He doesn't seem to be interested in any stuff that the other kids are interested in. When we try to do animated stuff, he just looks bored. She had a huge list of things. So her first thing was, I don't know if he has a hearing problem. Maybe you should go get him checked. So that's where we started with the whole, could it be that he has a hearing problem? So
Sorry, well, let me stop right there. When she was asking these questions, was anything going off in your head, or you were completely like, what is this woman talking about?
I was like, why is she stressing? No. I had no idea. So I was like, why is she stressing? He's fine, he's well. But then it occurred to me that, wait, he's actually almost 2. Maybe this is a thing. So we took him for the the audio, check and stuff. I don't know what they call it, the hearing test. So they check him and they're like, it's fine. And the lady very delicately tells us, I think maybe you should see a child psychologist. It might be a behavioral issue and stuff. Because I think she has like experience with parents coming in for first doing that test before finding out, what's next. So I did not go to see a child psychologist at first, because now it dawned on me that, okay, there could be something wrong. So I literally go on Google and I just start typing things. Does not respond to name, does not interact with that. Then that's when autism comes up. But again, I ignored it. So I remember taking him to school. I mean, they give you these solutions of just take him to school.
Yeah.
He'll, you know, when he interacts with other people, yeah. So I take him to school, and it's much worse, because now he was like standing and looking out our window the entire day. So the kids would be playing like morning glory, nursery rhymes, everything, counting, and he's not interested. He's not bothered, he's not involved, nothing. So the school admin like calls me in and they're like, you know what, I think you need to see a speech therapist at the very least, or at least get this kid checked. So that's when the whole process of speech therapy, then like getting him assessed by a speech therapist, then getting him into a special needs school, and the rest is really history. But it took a long time to accept that, okay, there might be an actual issue here, and it might not be solved by just taking him to school and being with other kids.
It's amazing that you talk about a school, because I own a childcare center, and we have many experiences where we are actually speaking to parents about, hey, we see some developmental learning delays, and it could be wise, or do you mind, or would you like to? In fact, for us, we've actually gotten a partner to come in to have that conversation with the parents. How do you think our school environment can best help parents whose children could be having developmental delays? Because like I was sharing with them earlier, I have parents who just leave completely. Never come back. We are the worst people that ever said anything. What do we do? Because, you know,
I mean, it's a delicate thing. I think people deal with things differently, and it can be a huge letdown, and it can crush you, like literally. So I understand the parent who would like be like, let me run away. It's not really about you. You know, when they leave and they never come back, it's not really about you. It's more like they're trying to avoid an issue. Like if I leave her and I go to another school that gives me hope that they can actually do something, then I don't have to deal with the idea that there could actually be a problem. But ignoring a problem is always a bad thing. So definitely always, I'm always begging people, like if you see something, say something. Like even if you receive a bad, you know, like reaction or negative feedback, or someone's like, I'm not speaking to you again, there's something you plant in their minds that will, you plant the seed and it will grow, because if there's actually a repeated issue, then it will keep manifesting itself in that child. Like you can't ignore it forever, you know? So at least something, I always say that I appreciate the people that told me in the beginning, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have done anything. I mean, they could have also just said, no, you know, I'd give him time. He'll catch up, he'll come around eventually. Boys take longer to speak. So eventually, you know.
believe it.
He's an only child, there's no one at home. There are no other children. That's why. You don't worry. You know, sometimes you parents also want things to happen overnight. Just wait for, you know.
Not fast food.
I have had so many of those stories and of those. So I really appreciate those who actually put me aside and said, you know what, it's not that we are saying anything is the matter, but it would be wise to go and get that, to go check it out.
What challenges have you faced raising him from to the 6 years he is now?
Do you have time? It's so challenging. I think the biggest challenge is just the ignorance about the whole condition from the community and myself as well, like a parent. I dismissed it. I mean, you really don't want to accept, like, guys, I think finding out that your kid has a lifelong condition that might or might not affect his ability to be independent or successful or what. I mean, I'm an only child. I was raised by a high achieving single parent. And so I have this force that I felt I was going to pass on. And then I'm given this child with whom I have to slow down and reassess and be like, okay, possibilities might not be the same. Management is totally different. I mean, it's good in a way because I think it humbled me, but then, you know, you learn so much on the go. So the challenges are many. I mean, for myself, it was just learning more and trying to get out of that space of fear. And then actually, you know, challenging myself to take it up to, you know, be his mother, basically. Because for a very long time I was avoiding it. So I'd give him to like my aunt or someone with this thing of, guys, I can't deal. I think someone else can do better. Because I couldn't potty train him. So I bought so many diapers with this thing of, he's already non-verbal. How am I going to explain that? Say, well, when it's time for you to use the loo, go. So I was already self-defeated. So I just decided to buy so many diapers. But my aunt amazingly got him potty trained. So now because of that, I know you should be saying, wow, right? Instead I was like, okay, you keep him for a bit. Because you seem to know what you're doing. You know? As a mom, really, I should be doing what's best for him. So maybe it's giving him to you because you're more professional than I am at this. But eventually, you know, that love that you have for your kid, that desire to want to be his mother, you step up. I mean, you learn. So I read a lot. I ask a lot. I'm open about my mistakes and my fears and stuff. I feel like when I share that, it always gives me strength to do better. Because I'm constantly telling myself, I should do better, I should be better. But the only way to do that is to own the issues so that you can do something about them. So that was a challenge. The other is obviously the community. I mean, you know, so autism is apparently caused by so many things. I mean, you could have, is it prenatal viruses? I was completely fine my entire pregnancy. I didn't have any issues. I wasn't exposed to anything. But then there's also these other causes that our society has brought. Is he bewitched? Is he, you know, is there darkness in this side of the family? Or, you know, there's also the fact that it's possibly genetic. So then there's that blame of like, is it coming from your family? Is it coming from a family? So it's like you're constantly looking for a reason, someone to blame, and something to qualify why you're in this position. But the worst, I think, is just the acceptance and the knowledge of the community. Being able to take him to a play area and no one is going to call him weird. I remember when there was a time I took him to play at one of my cousin's places, and her boyfriend, okay, so what happened was he hurt her son, which was really sad. But he got like a fork and had like at the top of his eye, and immediately I was like, we go home, because if this escalates, I don't know what I will do. So in that process, there were quite a number of people around and stuff. So I remember her boyfriend was like, oh, you know, he's like signaling to someone else. And I was like, I can't deal. How do you go to spaces and your child is described as this? So now in an effort to protect him, I kept him at home.
True.
I did not take him anywhere, but that didn't help either. So, you know, I had to create a solid group of people with whom he can be himself and be a child, and at the same time not be judged, be accepted. I mean, I have a friend of mine who's amazing. He has broken her taps, broken her, you know, her plates, her what, and she still loves him and she still asks after him and stuff like that. So when you have people like that to support you, I'm really blessed that I do, because I don't think everybody does. So when you have people like that, it helps you, you know, at least put him in a space where he can just be. But you know, you have that odd moment where you have an emergency and you have to go to the supermarket and he's overly stimulated and there's so much going on and there's so many lights and so many people and so many things, and then he just throws a tantrum, or he lays on the floor, or he does something crazy, and then someone passes by and just shakes their head and they're like, look at this unserious parent. So those are the day-to-day challenges of really having a child with autism. But I think it comes from within as well, that fear of my kid will be ridiculed or, you know, stigmatized or something. So that fear actually leads to so many mistakes being made.
So how are you in your day-to-day dealing? How are you dealing, like coping, in that you can be in a place where you can say, you know what, if we attained having the exact same issue and problem, and you were able to share with them, that maybe this is what I'm doing and maybe it's working, or I'm failing half the time, but there is also this other thing that I'm doing and I feel like it's working for me. How do you cope with these challenges? The one I'm really concerned about is that one. Rachel shared with us how her child did something, and then like how an adult came and said they are cuckoos or there's something wrong with your child. How do you deal with that? Like
Those comments.
Those
you
comments
feel the
and
need to explain yourself.
I don't anymore. I think I'm really blessed because now I've gotten to a place where I extend grace because I understand people's ignorance.
Okay.
So I don't look at it, I no longer look at it from the perspective of offense. I now look at it from this thing of, they just don't get it. It's okay. Let's just move away. It's fine. And I've realized that helps me a lot. So there are so many incidents I actually don't even remember anymore because I no longer register them. In as far as day-to-day dealing, I am very open about, and I say this to all the parents that I meet at AAU and stuff, I always say that you have to look after yourself in order for you to deal with this entire journey. So I'm quite keen on giving myself time to figure me out and just like replenish myself so that then I can go, because it's not just a full-time thing. I mean, you're mothers, so you know exactly what it is. You worry about the kid all the time. You're constantly, and with Harvey, I mean, he's changed so many schools, you have so many therapists, so it can be crazy. And I don't ever want to project that onto him. So the best way I know how is to take time for myself every now and then. And just figure myself out and first get back to sanity and then repeat. Harvey is actually really blessed because he doesn't have severe autism. But he did have a moment where he was a bit wild. So there was like biting.
That was when he was younger.
When he was younger. The expression, the complete non-verbalism and not being able to communicate in any other way would make him very aggressive.
So actually, what we usually say is that he probably started off on the more severe side of the spectrum, but because he was younger, the interventions then that you did helped rewire his brain. So now it looks like it's mild, and that's what I was sharing with these guys, that the brain is such a beautiful thing that if you work with it intentionally with your child, you find that now she can say he's mild.
You're actually very right. Because when we started off, we had no idea what to do. So the whole time he was like a problem child. Biting people, scratching people, going to random people, drinking people's things in like the... Have you ever go to a restaurant and your child leaves your table and goes to another table and eats their food and you're like, good Lord. You don't even know what to do in that scenario. So you're actually really, really right. It was the intervention. It was, putting him in a space where he's loved and he's nurtured and cared for. All of that really helped because now, I mean, he started to speak this year. I'm always telling people this. It was really exciting. Nice, I mean, guys, I keep telling people I waited 5 years to be called mommy. As in, for me, it's a huge privilege. It's a huge privilege. So, I mean, he says it like a million times a day, but I don't take it for granted because I'm like, think of all those years when he was just, and he felt it, but he couldn't say it for one reason or another. So he has improved, and now that he's able to say just a few things, he gets calmer and calmer. So what you're saying is actually really true. The therapy helps, the treatments help, the all those things that you try to do to help him be better, handle himself better, they help him be calmer, and that's why he's now able to be in a mainstream school. He has done a stint in a special needs school though.
What's he done a stint?
Because he's 6. I tell people, my son is yet to get to a school where he can just be, I mean, now we are, but like it's been a long journey to finally get to that space where you're in a school for a while, for like longer than a term. He was in a special needs school, but for a very short while. And then, you just keep trying things until you, until you get something that can actually stick. So I'm taking things one day at a time. But I also know that as an adult at that time, I will have to let go. Yeah. I'm hoping that I can do enough to help him be independent one day. And I'm hoping that I create an environment where he feels secure and loved and just cherished, so that he knows that in the world, if he's ridiculed and people say, at least he knows that there's a group of people out there that would die for him. That you get what I mean? Like, he would rest on that promise that there's love in this area and in this space. Yeah. So that's what I give myself as comfort, because I can't completely shield him from the world. I'm not going to walk with him and talk to every single person that speaks to him, because even now, even at 6, he goes to school and I don't know what happens at school. Yeah. And I have to be willing to give him that space. And it's scary at times. But sometimes I also get surprised when I'm called by a teacher and they tell me he's so popular. He gets, he's on the soccer team, or all his kids like him, or what. Yeah. I mean, that's also very heartwarming. So it's like a 50-50 thing. Yeah. I feel like it's good to focus on the good, and then if ever anything happens, we'll deal with it and then we'll move on. Yeah.
Can you briefly tell us what non-profit organizations like Autism Awareness Uganda, what you're doing, and like these other to support children?
So Autism Awareness Uganda, I started because of what I went through in my entire journey of just being lost and confused and not knowing where to go, who to talk to, or what. So what we as an organization are trying to do is, first of all, create awareness. Let people know that this is not witchcraft, this is not a curse, it's not a problem. It can be managed, it's a thing, but it has been there for years and years and years. But guess what? All those kids that you are writing off, they actually could possibly have a very, very bright future. Yeah. So we want to change that script. But then also we want to create like a support network. Like, I want that mom who's out there and she's really scared and she's like in fear of letting her child go, or she has so much on her chest that she just wants to erupt and talk to somebody. Like, I want to be able to talk to that mother, to help her release that stress so she can do her mothering in like with less burden, So that's what we are trying to create, like a support network for, moms, dads, siblings, carers, anybody. Because there are some people who find out that they have people with autism in their lives when they're like adults. Yes. So they also need help and they need support and stuff. There's so many organizations out there that are helping to provide treatment, to provide therapies and all of that. And I just want us to do like one expo or something. Because I feel like people don't know that they are out there. There are so many things I learned after I started AA. It was like, it then opened me up to those other organizations. And then I was like, what were these guys before when I was lost? And so I feel like we just need to come out a little more and tell people that we are out here and, all of us are here to support.
Yeah. This has been such a good and an enlightening. I feel like I've been in a course, some study session, like right from the horse's mouth. Yeah. Thank you so much, Patricia. This has been so enlightening. Thank you. I've personally learned so much, and I'm sure you've spoken to the mothers out there, the fathers out there, the community at large. And my message mostly is alongside, I feel the biggest barrier to evolution is ignorance. The decision that you make you choose to remain ignorant, not to know. We're all afraid. We are all afraid of the future, ours and our own children. And I get it that for the parent who has to deal, to nurture, to raise a child who is more challenged than the average ordinary child, it must be a really hard journey. But do your part. We will do ours on the outside. We are going to learn. We're learning already. But learn, accept. Go see a psychologist. If somebody talks to you, someone says something, the worst that can happen is that they'll get better. That's the worst that can happen. Yeah. But if you choose to remain in a bubble, it's self-defeating. I can't speak from a place of awareness. But as the society, I would encourage people, raise your children with love, yes? So that as they grow, nobody's laughing at anyone, ridiculing anybody. Let's let them come from a point of love. Thank you so much, Patricia. And to all the mothers and fathers and caregivers who are raising more challenged children, we wish you the best in your journey and seek help. It's there. People are getting more aware.